Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd have a look at this. This is that 48K Spectrum Plus that I used when I was demonstrating my beta disc interface that I picked up recently. And as I mentioned in the time, this is completely as I got it. I've never done any work to it, apart from do a AV mod on it just so I could get it working on my screen. And I thought it was about time that it got a new set of capacitors in it, because this one will be cleaned up and got ready for sale. So I thought I would go through doing a complete recap on one of these. It's exactly the same procedure for the rubber key 48K Spectrums. I'm going to go straight through it. I'm going to do it all in one take, so you can actually see how much time and what's involved in recapping one of these things. Oh, excuse me. Right, let's just get it unplugged. So I've just been testing it to make sure it does work, and it is still in working order, so there's nothing actually wrong with it. The other thing I've done, I don't know if you remember from seeing this in the past, this power supply actually came with my toast rack, and it's a 48K Spectrum power supply. But when I got it, someone had fitted that power lead to it, actually just soldered and taped on. Obviously the end had got broken, and they cut that off one of these universal supplies and just grafted it on, which isn't very good, and I wouldn't like to sell it in that condition. So whenever I have old little power supplies, be them like the 300 milliamp ones you get with stuff with old routers, and or anything under 1 amp or anything that doesn't work, before I bin them, I always take the jack lead off, and I usually crack the case open and I take it off with the little rubber grommet. And all I've done is I've got one of them out of my spares, which is the correct connector to fit the back of the Spectrum. And I've obviously you can tell it's not quite the same as the original. I had to file the plastic down a little bit to get that grommet to fit, but that's much better than having that horrible grafted on wire. So we've got a new cable on the power supply. I'll just put that out of the way. In fact, I'll unplug it and get it right out of the way, because we don't need that in shot for the moment. So that's gone for the moment. Here is our 48K Spectrum, and the first thing I'm going to do before I even open this is take my anti-static wrist strap. As I normally wear one round my ankle, but I can't find it. Since I did a bit of work in my workshop the other day, as you may have noticed, I now actually have a new top on my workbench. What this actually is if you've seen my videos where I've let me carry on with what I'm doing while I'm talking to you. If you've seen my videos where I've redone my attic and I plasterboarded all the roof, this is actually a bit of the boarding that used to be on part of the roof in the attic. I salvaged a few of the decent bits of it, and I've stuck this down to my workbench, and I hope you'll agree that's a much nicer bench to work on now. Right, so I'm grounded now, so I can't kill the Spectrum with static. Let's get a screwdriver and let's get inside this thing. Interesting to note that it looks like it has been previously repaired a long time ago. Carefully repaired, and it's missing there, but if we look at the phone number, it's 0276, so it's not got the 1 in it. Which does that make it pre about 92, 93? So it's, you know, it was repaired a long time ago. Anyway, let's get inside it. I need a little pot or something to put all these screws in so I don't lose them. Well, let's see what we've got kicking about. Ah, that'll do. Got an old paracetamol jar there, that'll do. We'll get these screws out. Always handy to have something to keep your screws in, or they do go missing. I guarantee you they'll go missing. Right, let's get these screws out. Has this got a full complement of screws in? can't remember from when I did. No, I think it has got a couple missing. I think it had a couple missing when I started with it, to be honest. No doubt I'll find some. I'll find some suitable screws lying around to replace them missing ones, and the different one from there. Now, gently, because the keyboard membrane in this is absolutely fine, so we don't want to break it by being rough with it at this point. There we go. That's disconnected. That seems to be coming away a little bit there. I think we'll just use a little bit of adhesive on that later to stick that back together. But that's fine. That can be put nice and safely out of the way for the moment. Where can I put that where it's safely out of the way? We can put it down there. And here, as you can see, we have our board, which, like as I said, I've already AV modded. We'll come back to that in a little bit later, because there is something I want to talk about the AV mods. So remove the switch. Obviously, this being the Plus model, it has the little reset switch, and we will take the board out of the case. Okay, that's one screw. Two screws. Is there any more screws holding this, or has it just got two screws holding it? Let's have a look. Oh, just two screws holding that in the case. So the case as well, we will reunite them with nothing inside them, and we can put that away nice and safely. And we have got our board to work on. Now the board actually looks in really nice condition. It's really nice, quite nice and clean, to be honest. I think we will be testing some of these capacitors. We'll take them all out, we'll put the new ones in, and I think we'll stick some of these on the old ESR meter and see quite how bad they are. I don't envisage them to be too terrible. On this one, there's no capacitors under the heatsink there, so we don't need to take that out. I'm not foreseeing replacing the regulator on it, because I don't see the need. It don't look like there's any overheating or anything. In fact, there's even some thermal compound underneath it there, which is nice to see. I wonder what work was done on this previously. I can't see anything socketed. Obviously the ULA is socketed, but that's standard. The processor isn't socketed. It's not been reflowed though. The ROM looks okay. I can't see, none of the RAM's obviously been socketed. Let's have a look on the back. That's usually the way you get the telltales, and you can see what's been done to it. And we can see straight away that the solder on the CPU is different. That's been hand re-soldered, as where this is all flow soldered by the look of it. So and we've got some bodge resistors on the back. I've not seen them before on one of these. I'll have to look into that. For those interested, it's an issue 4S. Edge connector looks like it's got some wear on it. It's been used, but it's not too bad. That'll need a little bit of a clean up. Certainly not terrible, it just needs a little bit of a clean. So it's had the processor replaced at some point in the past. I must admit, if I had been doing it even back, years ago, I just stuck a socket in for the pence it'll cost. I wouldn't have just stuck the new processor straight to the board like that, but that's how it was done sometimes back then. Anyway, let's, without further ado, look at replacing the capacitors in this. And what I've got to do that with, if I look in the right drawer, is I went on eBay, and for, I think it was £3 or £4, I bought a complete capacitor kit for the 48K Spectrum. I do generally keep these capacitors in stock anyway, but usually in radial style like that, rather than the axle style, which is generally better for the Spectrums. So yeah, I've splashed out and I bought a kit for this one. I'll see how it goes with it. If I like them, I might start buying these every time I do a 48K Spectrum. I think it was £3, £4, something like that. It weren't expensive, and it's got every capacitor you should ever need for a 48k Spectrum. You will probably have a few left over depending on what issue board you're working on. As well as the capacitors for the actual Spectrum, what we also get with this kit is some alternative AV mods for it. Now this at the moment has got the classic AV mod that is the simplest one to do to a 48k Spectrum. Basically you disconnect the power to the modulator, you disconnect the signal, the composite signal, into the modulator. Inside the modulator, let's just take the get the top off this. Inside the modulator you literally disconnect the resistor from the phono at the back and bend it out of the way. You take a wire from the composite in at the side here and just feed it straight to the output there. It works, it gives you a decent signal. There are other ways of doing it. One is to use a transistor to boost the signal up again. You get a bit of a better bright, apparently you get some slightly sharper colours I think. The other is to use a capacitor which just takes a bit of the DC offset, I think, off the signal, which shouldn't really be there. Generally speaking, I don't usually bother, I just do the simple composite mod like that. But what I'm going to do with this one, not in this video though, I'm going to put them to one side. I'm going to do the rest of the capacitor recap on this, so it's as good as it can be capacitor wise. And then I'm going to try the other two composite mods on this. So I'll try the one using the capacitor. I'll try one using the resistor, using the transistor, and we'll have a look at what the video output, see if there's any difference in it. And then I might have a go with one I've got in my mind at the moment, which I might try my own composite mods, bit similar, capacitor, transistor, resistor. Don't know yet. I might try that one and see if that gives a different composite signal again. But we'll do that for another day, so for now we'll just stick that back and just say it's got the basic comp mod on it at the moment. Get that back on there. So let's start with changing capacitors, and I think we will start with these two here. Now what have we got value wise? We've got that one's 22 UF, 25 volts, and that one's 22 UF at 25 volts. That one, negative is to that side, positive is to that side. That one, negative is to that side, so positives to the centre, negatives to the outside. Let's change them to first. Let's get on with that. And as I've said in the past, I do have a desoldering station. I'm sure that most hobbyists that do the odd one of these or like playing with their odd old vintage computer don't. So I'm going to do it the old fashioned way. Solder sucker, a flux pen, got some solder wick, we'll need some solder. In fact, let's get a roll of solder out. I'll use my nice fine stuff as well. So we've got a roll of solder there. Excuse me, I think that we should be good at that. Put my solder box away. And let's start by changing them to capacitors there. We'll go over like that, make sure we've not got anything in the way. We already know which orientation they go in. And we can say straight away that there might be a bit of a tricky one to do because there's such a large ground plane round it, but we'll get it out. That one looks okay, them two there look absolutely fine, they'll be easy enough to get out. The first thing we want to do is I'll just add a tiny little bit of liquid flux from my flux pen in the vicinity that I'm working before I do anything else. Just a tiny little bit, you don't need a lot. And we'll take a little bit of solder. Now you've seen me do all this before, but I thought I'd just do, like I said, a full board in real time so you can see exactly how much time it takes to do one of these things. And we will just add a little of fresh solder two of them points that we're going to be sucking, just like this, just to freshen up what solder's there. This one probably going to need quite a bit. Just give that a little bit of heat, and that's going to be the worst one because there's a lot of ground plane around there. Now let's get the old solder sucker, make sure it's nice and clean. Clean our iron off so we've got good contact. We'll tin that up a tiny little bit, just like that. If we go in, heat the joint up, make sure it's nice and hot. We'll go in with the sucker and there we go. Straight out with that first one. Start with this one, so we heat it up, go in with the sucker and pop. Straight out again with that one. Let's go on to the next one, heat it up, in with the sucker, suck. Again, we've done quite a nice job there. And now this one is going to take a little bit more heat because of the ground plane around it. So heat it up, just hold it there a little longer than you normally would. Suck. Now we've sucked a lot of that away, but there was still quite a bit of solder in there. Like I said, with a bit of a ground plane around it, then it was a little bit harder to do. I think we have got most of that. In fact, what we can do now, let's put the iron, right, if we just flick this back over, let's have a look, see how we've done with getting the solder out of there. There's still a bit of solder in there. Yeah, they're still holding on them. Go back over. Just go in. In fact, that one is now free. Sometimes there's just a tiny little bit of solder holding them, and literally just holding your iron against it, you can free it off and it'll pop out. Let's just flick that back over again and see. Now that is nearly free. You can see there that side's free, that's out. Just pull that up. Let's have a look at this one. Is this one coming out? Generally speaking, if you can, there we are, that one's up. So we've just got two sides which have been a little bit more stubborn. And what we can do just to get them out, now we can get hold of it. If we get the iron, put a tiny little bit of solder on the end of that just to get a good thermal contact. If we just touch it on the end, and the component literally just drops out. Again, we just touch it on the end. This one's a bit tricky because we've got that. Oh, it's not got the ground plane on this one. Touch it on the end. There we go. They're out. As you can see, those are the two old capacitors we've taken out. The board's undamaged. We've got a little bit of solder in the in some of the traces there. Sorry, in some of the holes there. One in there, and we've got a bit of solder in that one there. The others are alright actually, we've got the solder out. So what we will do, I know it sounds a bit daft, we take the iron and we just add a little bit more solder to that one. I think it was this one. Just add a little bit more solder to it. We then take the solder braid and see if I can find my snips again. There they are. Snip off that bit that I've already used. Just cut a piece off. So I've got a bit of solder braid there. What I like to do with solder braid is just take my flux pen and just add a little bit of extra flux to it. It's meant to have some flux like coated inside. I just like to add that little bit of extra flux to it. Then all we need to do, if we go over where we put that extra little bit of solder in, and we literally just rinse that around on top like that, and it just sucks out that little extra bit of solder that we had left in there. That one's still got a little bit in it. We can try that again. Sometimes you have to go from the other side as well. Let's have a look where the offending item is. Oh, we've still got two actually. That one there and that one there are being a bit of a problem, so let's just add a little bit of extra solder in that hole there. And same with this one. Sometimes it can help to go from the other side of the board. And we just add the hot iron on top, give it a quick squeeze round, and that's out. And again, we just put the hot iron on top, give it a quick squeeze round. There we go, that's clear. Ooh, and that's hot. Unfortunately, I've managed to get a bit of solder in the opposite hole, which doesn't help. But again, we can. It does happen that sometimes. Just add a tiny touch more solder to it. Get a little bit more braid out. There we go. Let's get a little bit of flux on that. Let's go back in there. And them holes are all nice and clean now. Now we'll go through the new capacitors, and what we're looking for are 22 UF 25 volts. So we get two 22 UF 25 volt new capacitors. Spin this board back over, and we know which way these want to go round. In fact, where is my isoprop? Because I want to give this board a little bit, just bear with me for 30 seconds please. I think I've left my isoprop in the other room. I'm back. Okay, there we go. Just re-ground myself. Yeah, it shows me not to get organised before I do one of these videos, doesn't it? Anyway, there we are. We've got the isoprop. So we just you've seen me do this before. Bit of isoprop on the cotton bud. And all we want to do really is just clean round any residue that we've created on this side of the board. I'm not going to do the other side just yet because we're still going to be soldering there, but just quick clean round anywhere we've worked. Just get rid of the any flux residue, and then we need to bend the capacitor legs. And as we said before, if we look, follow the arrow, that's negative. It goes in that way around that one. Slide it down, make sure it sits flush to the board. Let's just nip that over a little bit, get that nice and neat and level. Same with the next one. Let's drop that off the side of the board there. Let's get the next one ready. So we can see which way we want to go, and that one goes that way, so we stick that in like so. Again, make sure we get it down and level like that. And now capacitors aren't too bad, usually they'll stay where you want them to, because the legs are quite thick really. So we've got that in position there. Take our iron, and the important thing to do is heat up the leg and the joint together and apply the solder to them both at once. That's how you get a good flowing joint. That one's nice. Again, we'll go in here, apply the heat to the leg and to the pad at the same time. Don't just heat the leg up, don't just heat the pad up. There we go. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put that down again. And then we just need to obviously trim the legs off. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the first 2 capacitors changed. Let's do this one here, because that's probably one of the harder ones to get to. That one, and then this one that has the reset going to it. So let's do that one next. And that one's a 22 volt at, we can't actually see at the moment, so we'll whip that out and then we can see what value it is. We know we've got one because this kit has the model, and it might be another 22 UF judging by its size, but we can tell it's these 2 connections there. So exactly like we've just done, little bit of flux to start with, follow that with a little bit of fresh solder on them, so a little bit of fresh solder on like that, little bit of fresh solder on like that, bring the heat in, get it warm, suck, and again exactly the same, in, get it warm, suck. Now that one's come free. I can see that's almost out. The first one, I didn't quite get a good suck on it, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more fresh solder to it. Make sure the sucker's clear. Heat that back up again, go back in, another suck. Again, it's come out, but there's still a bit of solder in that one. What I think we'll do is we'll see how well we've got that free. Let's give it a little rock like we've shown in the past. Now there's virtually no solder around that that connection there. There's very little around that one there actually. It probably would break free if I was to whittle it, but we'll use the same technique we used last time. We'll just get hold of the capacitor with your finger, just gently heat it up a little bit, and we can see we can just pop that last little bit of there we go, that last little bit of solder that was holding it. What we don't want to do is get hold of it with a pair of pliers, yank it and risk pulling the plating out from the hole. If it's not coming out, then you're always best to use a little bit more heat, just persuade it. Just go in like that, I'll just heat the leg, there we go, it's straight out. And we can do the same on this side. We just come in, we just heat the leg, because there's a tiniest little bit of solder holding it. There we go, that's out. We can now have a look what value it is, and again it's 22 UF 25 volt. We can see that that's the positive side, so that's obviously the negative side. It's nicely marked on the board. It's lovely and clean that side. It's nice and clean that side. We'll just get a tiny bit of that. In fact, no, we don't even need to get the residue off there just yet, because we'll get the new component in place. We'll get them all soldered up. Then we'll go over this board and we'll just give it a general clean, get rid of all the flux. It's as well to get rid of flux off this side as you go if you've got any on there. So we need another 22 UF 25 volt cap. Bend the leads in. We need no negative is that way, so we want it in that orientation there. And we're going to position it so you can actually see what value it is for future future repairers, it makes it a little bit easier. That is in position. I bet some people think this is like watching paint dry, and other people will really enjoy it, so each to their own. I must admit I like watching people solder, because there's lots of different techniques to soldering and you can pick up tips. You could sometimes say, bloody hell, I'd never do it like that. I'm sure there's some people that are watching my videos going, bloody hell, I'd never do it like that. But like I said, there's lots of right ways, lots of wrong ways, and it's really down to personal preference. There we go, that's capacitor number 3 replaced. Let's do them two next, because they're both next to each other. Again, we will take the older, and let's see what value these are. 100 UF at 16 volts. And again, that one negative to that side, that one negative to that side. And we have 1 connection, 2 connections, 3 connections, and 4 connections. So we've got our flux on there. Let's take a bit of our nice new solder. On we go. I hope you can see this, you know. We're absolutely gutted if I get to the end of this video and it's all been off shot. Now I've moved the bench around, I've put the camera in a slightly different position. I'm hoping you can get better shots of what I'm doing. This is the first time I've tried it from that particular angle, so we'll have to see at the end of this video. Unfortunately, we're not having the lines in the bench anymore. I did used to use them as a bit of a reference to where the camera was actually focused on, which I've lost, but never mind. I mean, we live and learn with these YouTube things, don't we? Right, so we've got some extra solder on them. We've got them nicely fluxed up. We've got our solder sucker. We'll add a bit of heat to that first one there, and in with the solder sucker. Suck. There's obviously a lot there that didn't get it all. Let's go in again. Suck. We've got rid of most of it, but there is still some. Let's move on to another one, because we don't want to overheat the pad. Again, we took a lot of it out there. Have another go. Yeah, we've got rid of most of that one. Let's move on to another one. Unfortunately, there's a few of the legs in the way on this one, but there we go. First, and go in again. I missed that time. Got most of that out. Go on to the last one. Heat it up. Get it with the iron. There we go. And again. So some are easier than others. Sometimes you get ones which can be a bit of a pain. We'll leave that for a second. Let's flip the board over and see how we're doing. As we can see, that one we've got rid of most of the solder from it. That one we've got rid of most of the solder from it. Them first two seem to be still rather well attached. I think what we'll try and do is we'll see if that'll lift out the place if we just because there's very little solder on that now. If we need something just to grip the capacitor, we can probably use these. And what we'll do is we'll just heat that leg ever so gently. There we go. So that's out. How is it on that side? Turn it over again. And as I showed before, if we just grip it gently, and we just gently heat the leg up. There we go. That's out. And we're left with just this one to take out now. And we're going to add a little bit of fresh solder to that, because it was being a bit of a being a bit of a problem, this one. And I think it would benefit from a little bit of fresh solder added to the joints before we attempt to re-suck that one out. So we'll add a little bit of fresh solder there. Get the old solder sucker in place, heat that joint up and suck it clear again. And we'll give another one last go on that. And that's a lot better. I can see a lot of the solder's gone from around there now. Let's get onto this last one as we heat it up. Get in and suck. And again, there seems to be a lot more solder come out there, but it's still being a pain, this one. Suck it again. Flip it over. And yet again, there's a lot less solder there than there was. We may be able to tease this one out with a little bit of heat. Let's just see what we can do. Just gently heat the leg. There we go, that one's out. Let's see if we can do the same on this side. So there's a little more solder. We can get rid of the solder once we've got the component. There we go, that's out. No damage to that, there's nothing on there. We've not pulled any tracks out. We will have a little bit of a clean up with some solder braid on this side though. Let's just go in with a little touch of that. Have a really quick little clean up because we use quite a bit of solder. I don't want any of that excess about. Let's just give that a quick clean. There we go. Like I said, we won't bother cleaning the flux off there just yet. We'll clean that off and put the new components in. This side again, we didn't use any desoldering braided flux on that side. That's nice and clean. We want our two 100 UF capacitors, which are basically the biggest ones. So we've got them just like that. Let's just make sure we've got them in the right orientation. So the first one positive that way, negative that way. Let's bend the legs into position. Put them in position like that. We'll bend the next one over, and this, as we saw, goes in the opposite direction. Let's just spin it around, because I like to be able to at least see what it is. Like I said, for future repairers, it's nice to be able to see what the component value is without having to desolder it. Let's get that in position, push that home. There we are, that's fitting nice and smoothly on the board. Need to solder these in position. I will need a new piece of solder very soon, or else I'm going to burn my fingers. Let's go in there. Let's heat it up. Same here. Heat it up. Heat it up. Oops. And the last one. Heat it up. There we go. They're in position. And let's just snip off again. Come off. Snip that one a little bit too low. Snips into the solder then. But there we go. They're off. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the capacitors done. Let's tackle these two next. I think that's going to need tightening up. So let's just give that a quick. Yeah, that is very loose. we'll address that later because that's not tightening up, and I don't like that being loose like that with it being a heat sink. So on to these two capacitors there. Let us take out that one first, and that one again is 25 volts, 22 UF. That one's obviously going to be smaller because it's 50 volts. Again, I can't see. We'll see when we remove it. But this one is negative to that side, positive to this side. That one is positive to that side, negative to that side. Let's do this one first, seeing the different values, and then we don't get them confused. So, as you've seen me do all them times before, and we get some flux, put a little bit on the board, put a little bit on the board there. And then we get some solder, which I'll need a new piece. Break that off. Just add a tiny little bit of fresh solder to the joints we're working on, like that. We take the desolder pump, heat up the leg, over with the pump. Oh dear, that's not good. Now the reason that's happened is last time I popped my pump, obviously the bit didn't come out, so that's got on the board now. Let's get rid of that. Right, that's out, and we'll leave that for a minute and we'll move on to the other side, so in case we overheat the board. So heat that up, on with the pump, out we go. We'll go back to this one, heat that up, and that's free. Back onto this one, heat that up, and again that's a lot better. Let's fire the board over and have a look. Now that one's cleared quite nicely like the other ones, but that one hasn't cleared anywhere near as nicely. Let's have another go at that first, that connection there, because that really didn't suck very well. I think the leg is actually very slightly bent over, which doesn't help. They are quite thick, these legs. I don't like trying to straighten them when they're too thick, because that again you risk damaging the through hole. Let's heat it back up, suck it again, and let's have a look from this side. It seems to have removed a lot of solder, but it's still not completely free. Let's do the old heat the leg trick. Right, we've got that side out. It's always easier if we can get it up like that, because we can get some heat in here. There we go, that's the component out. And that is our, that's another 22 UF at 25 volts. Just put the, I've got my iron stuck in it. There we go. Rest the iron on there. Okay, now what I can see, we've got a, oh, the holes are clear actually, that's not too bad. Bit of dust around there, so while we've got in here, we'll just get the cotton bud and have a quick clean up around there. Well, we can, like I said, we've got the component out, we can give it a quick clean up underneath. Look on this side, yeah, everything's fine. We'll just give that a really quick clean up with a little bit of solder wick before we put the new component in. And cut off the excess. Bit of flux. Just like that. Over the top here and just give it a quick, just get rid of any excess bits from before. There we go, they're nice and clean. Another capacitor, let's make sure we've got the right value. 22 UF 25 volt. So really, the voltage on a Spectrum, if it's over 16 volts, it's fine. Most of the Spectrum sees 5 volts. There's a few bits that see 12 volts. So literally anything over 16 volts, and you've got plenty. Right, as we can see here, negative going that way. Oops, and I've dropped the capacitor. We've still got negative going that way. We've still got the right capacitor in our hand. Plus to that side. And let's slide that in the holes. I think the eyes are going blurry. I can't get that in the hole. There we go, that's in now. Again, we'll make sure that's nice and flush down to the board. Like that. Nice and tight. Get our solder. In we go with the solder. That one's soldered in position. And again that's soldered in position. Drop that. Put the iron back in its stand. Snip the legs off. There we go, that's that capacitor changed. And next we will do the one with the reset on it. So the first thing we need to do is desolder the reset. I think that'll make life a bit easier. So we come in with the iron, just to eat up the bit of solder and pull. Just move that capacitor gently out of the way. Obviously you don't need to observe polarity on this, because all that does is short out that capacitor. So it just needs to go to either side of it. We will put that to one side, and we will take that capacitor out. Now, what is going to be a bit tricky, because it's had that soldered to it, there is a lot of solder on that side, and it's right down onto the pad. So we're going to have to do quite a bit of sucking to get that little bugger off. Now, what we'll do, negative going that way. We've got to remember that, and we've got to remember this is a different value, and we're not sure what the value is yet until we've actually got this capacitor out. Anyway, let's get them connections with a little bit of we'll check where we are with that. Get them connections with a little bit of flux on them, like that, as you've seen me do. So it is really just repeat when you're doing this, and hopefully we can get through the entire procedure and not lift any tracks. Now, I know some repairers say they hate Spectrums because they lift tracks on them, and they're very prone to it. Yeah, the later Spectrums that were made by Amstrad, I must admit, the boards aren't quite as good a quality as some of the earlier ones. The even earlier ones to this tend to be even better than these later ones, but these aren't too bad. Heat it up, come in with the old sucker, suck, heat it up. With the old sucker, suck. I weren't quite on it then. There we go, that one's out. And again, I heat it up, come in and suck. That one come out really nicely. Let's spin it back over. Let's see. See, that side there is virtually free. That side's been a little bit more troublesome. Let's see if with a bit of gentle, it's not quite ready to come out yet. We take the iron and we just really got to be careful, because we don't want to hit that plastic on that keyboard connector. Let's come in at the right angle, heat that up. Come on, out you come. There we go, that one's out. We can lift that up, and it's only held on with a little bit of solder. There we go, that's out. And we can find out what value it is. It's a 1 UF 50 volt. We'll stick that in the pile of the deaders. That hole there is nice and clear. That hole there we're going to have to do a little bit more work on. we get our solder. Just add a little bit of extra solder to that, and we'll try coming in with a bit of solder braid. Put a little bit of extra flux on. And in we go. There we go, that's nice and clear. Don't even have to bother looking at the other side of it. Lovely. Right, now what we need to do is we get our we want the 1 UF capacitor, which is that one there. And what we need to do, we'll fold it. I want to fold it so we can see what it is. So negative is that side, this is a 1 UF, it goes in that way around. Like that. Let's push that now down so it's home. Solder it in place. Just a little bit more solder on than that. That's okay. Okay. And I'm happy with that. That's in position. We just need to reconnect the reset switch. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to shorten the wires that they've provided. They're all nicely tinned up. But we'll just take off a little bit because they used to fold them round. And I'd actually rather, they're never going to come off. I'd rather just tack them on, to be honest, on something like this. That's a sure we're not going to get on there. So all we're going to do, take a little bit of solder and just tin up the leg ever so slightly. Just a tiny little bit of solder on the legs of that capacitor. We take the reset switch, and you'll see me soldering right-handed, which is not easy for me because I'm left-handed, but all we need to do is just touch that on there, like that. Swap back around, get that in position, and touch that on there like that. They're not coming off. When it's reassembled, there's no way they can come off. And if you want to work on the board and you want to take the switch off, it's just touch with an iron and it's away, which is a lot better than messing about and pulling it off and all that crap. Anyway, so they're done. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. So let's start. We've got a 4.7 and we've got a 1 UF. We've got another 1 UF, and we've got a 22 UF, and I think that's probably going to be another 22 UF. We'll do them two first because I think they're both the same value. Now there's some bodge work around here which is going to make it a little bit more tricky. We need to ascertain that them are not in our way, which fortunately they're not. First thing we need to do is attack them to attack them to connections there. So we'll get a little bit of flux on there like that. Get the iron, and we will heat them up slightly. Put a little bit of extra fresh nice solder on there. Get the old sucker out, heat that up, on with the sucker, suck, same as this one, heat it up, on with the sucker, suck. Let's get away some of that excess, Then I think we will move straight on to the other side and see if we can get them out. That's one of them, I think, and I'm not sure where the other one is yet. There, I think. We'll need to find that out. Let's spin the board back over. Yeah, now we've sucked that and that, I believe. Still can't see a lot of solder being sucked out from there. I definitely sucked. Oh, I think we've sucked the wrong. I think we've sucked. Yeah, we've sucked the wrong components there. That does happen every now and again. It should have been them two there. So let's resolder the ones that we sucked by mistake. Just clean my iron off. Like that. And let's have a go at sucking the ones that we should have sucked in the first place. Get a bit of extra solder on them. Make sure the sucker's working. Let's heat this first one up. Suck. Let's heat the second one up. Suck. That's got quite a lot in it. Let's have another go with that one. Heat it up. Suck it out. Yeah, let's have a look from the other side. I think they're going to need a bit more work on them. They seem to have sucked quite a lot out of that one. That first one may come up with that old trick of just giving it a really gentle heat and a little bit of a lift. So I don't think there's much hold in that one. There we go, that one's out. Lift that out of the way. And let's go and have a see if we can get the other side of that out now. That is the first one there, which is that leg there. We'll get the old flux pen out. We'll give that a quick dollop there. And we'll give its friend a dollop while we're in that area. We'll get the solder out again. We will give that a little extra bit of fresh solder, and I think we will we'll give them both a little bit of fresh solder like that while we're in here. Clean the iron off slightly, and again heat up, in and suck. Oops. And again we've got a little bit of crap off my iron, off my sucker, unfortunately. That is something you don't get with the with my fancy Weller. You just basically hit the foot pedal and it sucks all the solder out. But as I say, I'm showing this as it would be done if you don't have expensive repair stuff like that. Although I must admit I picked that up second hand. I wouldn't have it if it was full price and new. Excuse me. Right, that's pretty much free. It's just stuck by a tiny little bit, so I'm just gripping the capacitor between my fingers. Just very gently, just heat up. Spin it over. There's hardly anything holding that at all now. Again, tiny bit of heat and it's out. We'll move on to this next one here. Again, we've got that one completely free now. We just want to take that out. I think I'm just going to add a little bit more solder to it. If I can pick the solder up, that is. Which I've got. Again, we just add a little bit more solder to it. Because that one was being a little bit stubborn. Heat it up. In with the sucker and suck. Let's try that again. Heat it up and suck. I think we've probably got most of the solder out from there now. Yeah, if we look from that side, there's most of the solder's come out from there. We'll try releasing the other side. which, let's have a look along here now. That would equate to that one there, which I've already put a little bit of fresh solder on. Let's heat it up, get in and suck. Let's have a look now. Oh, look at that. Now, I mean, that one was a nice easy one to get out. Unfortunately, now that's raised up like that, if we just use a little bit of heat, and it's out. Now we will just need to do a little bit of cleaning up, because I think there's a little bit of, let's have a look in there. Basically, if you hold it up to the light, you can see through. You can know where the whether you can get the new legs through. So we will put two new 22 UF capacitors in there. That's 1, 2. Bend the legs. Negative that way. So we'll rotate the component round so when it's in position you can actually see what the value is, like that. Make sure we've got that the right way around. Negative that way, positive that way. We'll drop the new one in position. Oh, have we got a bit of extra salt? Yeah, I think we've got a bit of old solder in the hole there. Let's have another go, because sometimes it will slide through, but oh yeah, that's it. Literally, there was just a tiny little bit of old solder in the hole. If it won't go with just a light little force like that, you're best getting a bit of solder braid and just cleaning the hole out again. Don't really force it, because you could risk again ripping the through hole plating out. But if it's just a little bit tight, just a gentle push, and sometimes that's all it needs. It is literally just a little bit tight in the hole. Let's bend this one again into the correct position. This one goes in the same orientation on this event. So this one goes in that way. Sorry, this one goes in that way, same as that one. Get that through the holes, get that in position, push that down so it's nice and flat like that one is, spin it over, it sounds like a Russian tennis player, that. There we go, on that one. There we are. They're all done, and we have 3 more to go. Let's see if we can get them 3 done. I think this is going to be a long video, you know. I really do. Anyway, let's get these last ones out. This next one we're doing is a 1 UF. So let's get this 1 UF capacitor out. Again, a bit of flux. Forgetting my own rules now. Bit of flux on the legs. Annoyingly, that's one of the ones we actually took out before and I resoldered, but never mind. A little bit of flux on the legs. I like to put that on before I have the new solder, because it helps the new solder flow into the joint a bit more. Let's put a bit on there. Again, get the old solder sucker out, suck it up, out of there, come in here, suck it up, suck it out. The leg's bent over, that's not going to be an easy one to get out. Spin the board over again. In hindsight, I should have probably put that back on after I'd finished the rest of the board, but and I can just see I've just sucked it out from the wrong place. It should have been that leg there. Right, that was a silly thing to do. You can do that every now and again. Like I said, I've been doing this for years, and it does happen every now and again. You think you've got the right. Point. You unsolder it, and you've unsoldered the wrong component. Anyway, let's try it again. Let's heat that leg up there, which I think is now the right one. Suck that out. Yeah, we got it that time. That was the right one that time. Let's lift it like we did before. Oh, yeah, no, we're still connected. Let's lift it like we did before. So, just grip it. Tiny bit of heat on the leg. Let's see if it'll lift up. That side is still well soldered, so we're going to have to go in again. So it's this one, I think, which has been a little bit of a pain. Let's have a jolly good look. In fact, I think it might be that leg there. Yeah. The leg that we want is that one there. So I've actually been trying to unsolder the wrong leg. Never mind. We'll resolder the one that I got wrong. The leg in question we want, as we can say, there we go. It literally has just dropped out the board, which does mean we need to take a little bit of solder out of there now. Put that down. You always want to cut off the bit of braid you've already used. I said it's not essential, but I always like to add that little bit of extra flux from a flux pen. Let's go back in here now. We know it's there that we need to give it a bit of a there we go. Spin that board back over. As we can see, we've sucked out. There we've resoldered the component we accidentally took off. We need another 1 UF capacitor, that's 22. That's 4.7. That's the 1 UF. And again, negative that way, we want it that way around. And the legs into position, like so. Insert it in the board, push it in position like that. We get our solder. And the solder, they're happy. There we go. Let's take these and never throw these away. Put all these in a little pot because they're really useful for repairing broken tracks, for extending legs on components, you name it. You always find little bits of wire like that incredibly handy. And there we go, that's the new one in. We've got 2 more to go, one 4.7 UF and one UF, which are those 2 capacitors there. That one, I'm not sure, that's another 4.7 UF 50 volt. I'm not sure what that one's for. It's obviously not used on this revision of the board anyway. So let's take that 1 UF off next. Right, we know it's that connection there. Double a little bit of flux on it, and it's that connection there. Get the old soldering iron out again. Add a little bit of solder to that. Add a little bit of solder to that. Get the old solder pump out. Heat that leg up. On with the pump. Heat that leg up. On with the pump. Always flip it over, see how much solder we've took out there. It's still a lot of solder in them holes. So clean the crap off the iron. Heat that one up again and pump. We'll heat that one up again and pump. And again, just flick it over. That's looking a lot, but well, look at that now. It's actually the 4.7 we've just taken out, and I was attempting to take the 1UF out. Never mind, we'll do the 4.7 first. That'll be easy enough to do. That is very loose. I have a feeling, yep, just lift straight out the board. Board's nice and clean. We'll just give it a really quick clean up there because there's a little bit of crud around it, but not a lot. We take our that's a 22, that's a 4.7, that one. And we want positive that way, negative that way, which is that way around. Bend the legs again, nice and simple. Get them in the holes. Bring them out like that. Good old soldering iron. In we go. Heat that one up. In we go. Heat that one up. Take these legs off. Like that. That one's replaced. Nice and tidy. Last one to do is the 1UF there, which I thought was doing then, but never mind, we was a little bit high up. And we can see where it is, so again, quick bit of liquid flux on there. Back in with the old iron. Bit of fresh flux, sorry, bit of fresh solder on the old pins. Make sure we don't take out the one we've just put in. Take the solder out. Over we go. Again, that's come out quite well actually. It's a little bit tight, but nothing that the old trick with the iron. This only works when you can literally see round it and it's just stuck on one little bit. This is not recommended any other time. Literally when there's just a tiny little bit of solder on one side holding it, you can just heat it up a tiny little bit and out it comes. A little bit of solder's just gone into that hole. So again, I can see most of it on this side there. Bit of solder like that. So a bit of a flux on my braid. That's where it is. I'll just go over the top of that, give it a quick sloosh out. That's got the hole clean. You can see through that nicely. Because we've done it on the top of the board there. Let's get a little bit of isoprop out. Got a little clean round. And we'll put the last 1UF capacitor, which is that one. Bend the legs again, 1UF that way, bend that way like that. That's negative going that way, which means it goes in that way around. We'll go in with the solder again, heat that up. One there, one there, let's take these legs off, that. As we can see, oops, that's loose, but that is the 48K motherboard completely recapped. All we're going to do now, in fact, if I just get something I can just tighten that up with, it'll do. Not ideal, but they'll do. I'm just going to tighten that up, that's concerning me a little bit. That shouldn't be loose.